Pasha Pablo, thank you for tuning. So, what we going to talk about today? Rent and Social Security, your collision course, how it affects your dreams, your future, your legacy. Preparation is a possibility. Choices you make today, how much will they matter? Right? That's what you really love, right? I get it. Or you just don't care. You're living life by the second with no hopes for the future. Now, consider this. Now, when you talk about being into neuroaesthetics on branding and marketing as a way to create sustainable communities, in 2025, 78.1% of people aged 65 to 74 years old own their home. So they did, right? Those of us on the channel here know they're just a glorified rent payer too, as they still have to make payments to stay there. Another conversation. Let's keep this one going. So in 2025, 79.3% of people over 65 own their homes. In 2025, 81.3% of people over 50 will keep renting. In 2020, 22% of people over 65 actually still rented their homes. The projection for 2040 is that 27% of people over 65 will be renting their homes. 27% in 2040, it's projected that 27% of people over 65 will rent their homes. So what is retirement? Right? Is that even a consideration in today's economic world as the United States currently knows it? What does the word retire even mean? So here's the etymology on the screen. Retire is to retreat, to go back. So as in your bank account, when there's no more fiat currency flooding into it, right? The orgasms of money that you feel like you're making has been spent or redirected, at least tributary, and now flows elsewhere. It has retreated, right? Your purchasing power, is that what you're looking to retire or to have retreat or to go back? You know, when we're talking about the threat of what Social Security may not be, consider those who are 25 years old right now, right? We know the risk factor is high that there may be no Social Security for them. I talk to a lot of people. I keep in tune with the current state of people's thoughts, right? Because really what separates people is only thought process. You know what I'm saying? So planning for retirement, I talk to business owners and I say, hey, you know, let's learn more about each other. I want to know what you do because I'm building something. I'm branding America to replace the United States. We can't actually boycott a system that we haven't built a replacement for. So, you know, my dumbass thinking ahead is the one that's working with the community to to actually get that ball rolling so that we can stop all the emotional pity patter and crying and forming lines in the streets like they taught us to do in little elementary school, and stay on the right side, walk this way, go that way, to complain to the principal or the teacher about something that we can take control of ourselves. I know a lot of people don't look at it like that because they were programmed their whole life to do exactly that, to cry to perceived authority figures when something happens to them on reset, like little pump, right? And I'm not saying that makes you the most, or you have to be the most gangster person in the world. What I am saying is that when we come together and agree on a destination, it makes it totally easier to overcome all obstacles. Yet we remain so divided. People are thinking that they're in a race to retirement and they're actually further ahead than somebody. They have financial planners telling them they're going to be okay. You know, it's like paying the pastor to give you the good word. Because in reality, I assume, I don't like to assume. So I'm going to say, in most cases, in all likelihoods, you feel good about the future based on your belief of today, your knowledge of today. So you feel like your rent went from $850 to $1,300, $1,400 in the last few years, and you feel like you're basing your retirement off of, can you afford $1,400? But if we're talking to 25-year-olds, you know, we're actually speaking about what the case will be in 2067. Okay, not next week, not next month, not next year. Okay, so how selfish is it for us as the leadership generation to feel like we're okay? Because when I talk to these people, their mindset, a lot of them is, I'm okay. I don't need to do any better than I'm doing now. And, you know, let's just say that I don't know that I'm talking to Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos on the other end of that Zoom call. They could be, you know, green screening out their mega mansion, and maybe I don't really watch a lot of the BS on social media. Maybe I miss their garage of 27 Italian sports cars. You know, maybe they have, you know, a metric ton of gold in a safety deposit box at a credible institution. But the difference that we're talking about here is your rent is currently $1,400 a month. And by 2067, you can expect that to be $14,000 a month. Let's talk about it. Let's look it over real quick. The average rent increase from 2012 to 2022 was 3.18% annually, right? With, of course, the unprecedented recent spikes in 2021, where it increased by 19% in a single year, and 18% in 2022. So we know rent can get busy, but it slowed to 1% in 2023. They had squeezed all the juice out of you, and they felt like if they gave any more tugs on those balls, that you were just going to explode in the Capitol, and they would have another storm that they weren't prepared for, like Katrina. Except for this time, it would affect them instead of we the people. But in 2023, it only increased by 1%. The overall trend is about 2 to 3% per year, right, of the cost of living. But there's a consistent trajectory of upwardness. Despite any fluctuations in your income, it continues to go up. And that's if you believe you have income to begin with, right? Totally another conversation. Projecting the future rents, we know it's an assumption, all right? But the average increase of the rent stabilizes at 3%, depending on whose account you take. So if the current average rent was $1,800 per month, currently today, then the projected rent in 2067 will be $14,000 per month based off a 3% annual increase compounded over 42 years in case your sorry ass leadership don't want to tell you why I'm on their ass about making sure they work with me to make your business the best it can be, to get you out of the volunteer slavery that you're stuck in, because they're not going to give a fuck about you. And think about how you feel today based on what your rent payment is today and what it was 5 years ago. Think about the video I made 6 years ago that asked the question, are we spending estate money on apartments as a family? That showcased that at that time pre-COVID, right? If you had a mother and a father in the household that maybe still was making a mortgage payment, $2,500 a store number out there, and you had 3 sons or daughters, right, to make the family unit 5. And let's say at that time they were paying $1,000 a month for rent. So that was 1,000 times 3 plus 2,500. Your family spending $5,500 for rent just to make sure they got a roof over their heads, scattered across the lands in between the ocean, right? So, and that's at $1,000 times 3. If you make it 15, it brings it to 7,000, right? Do the math in the comments, somebody. So, if you look at 7,000 a month, at that time, I did the real life Google real time rent calculator that the people go to and put in their information in and tell you that 5% per year annual maintenance cost, all that's included in the blah 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 blah. You could get $250,000 to $1 million mortgage, and your mortgage payment be in the high 3,000s pre-COVID percent rates. I mean, translate it to today for yourself. Take your time and invest in it. So what I'm getting at is, then at the same time, I looked at realistic houses on the market available like that same day right here, mouse click away. The best one I saw was a 2-story, 11,000 square foot home with a full 360 wraparound porch on the second story. So it wasn't nothing to sneeze at, right? I don't know where you come from. Okay. So the home was 11,000 square feet, 2 stories, maybe had a basement, maybe had an attic, definitely 2 stories, a wraparound 360, a full 360 wraparound porch on the second story, 11,000 square feet for just over $750,000. The mortgage payment with the insurance and whatever else they put in there would have been just under $4,000. But we're not used to living in 11,000 square feet. We're used to what we came from off the block. We were probably lucky if the old 3 or 4 bedroom had 1,500 square feet. Every time you think about coming together and doing something, you start to feel tight because of trauma. Right? But imagine how you feel today, and if you think about what it would be like tomorrow, your rent all of a sudden, where you're at right now, $14,000. You're talking about a significant burden. But these business owners who don't know what they don't know will tell you how well they're doing, that they're okay. They will almost act like you're bothering them because you realize is that you need them. You don't need them, but their community around them needs them to get in the act now, to be in the right attitude, which means position then, so that the community can be sustained. It ain't gonna be no I'm better than. It's gonna be the whole community needs. Y'all laughing at the memes on eggs today because they're telling you the joke in a joking form that wealth is measured in eggs. And you're laughing now because, oh, it spiked that. I don't know how much eggs are. Or whatever. I can't remember last time I bought some eggs. Right? But when the eggs actually are $40 a carton and your rent is $15,000, that little $400,000 you got in your business account will be just over 28 months worth of rent payment. What if the inflation rate goes up between now and then? What if the rent increase all of a sudden becomes 4% instead of 3%? Well, at 4%, the projected rent for 2067 would be $24,000 a month. You saw half of New York City move to Charlotte. You saw half of California G700 to Arizona. When your rent goes from what it is today, if you wonder why speculation from Pasha Pyro, Trump changing Section 8 and food stamps, when your rent goes from what it is today for the same place you're in to $24,000 per month, do you have to guess why North Carolina legalizing concealed carry? But if we get more people to hear what Pasha's saying today, we can make 2067 different for everybody. But it takes you to be involved. One, listen to this video, take your notes, talk to the family about it, and share with your community. Because they're going to think you're crazy unless they actually see it for themselves. So you're talking about severe financial strain for retirees and young professionals. What's the degree going to matter when your rent is $25,000 a month? Housing affordability becomes a critical issue. Fixed income is almost laughable. T.I. cutting a little scissor on the ribbon for some affordable housing is bullshit. And y'all loving it. Y'all living it up. It's a waste of time. Because whatever you define as affordable housing today ain't gonna be affordable 5 years from now. Who the fuck you fooling? You gotta either be really distracted or just really slow to be in T.I. comments celebrating that bullshit. When you got a whole network that equates to billions of dollars that could get with Pasha Pablo, and I could tell you what we need to do and manage the projects for you. Because all you're doing is building glorified grave sites. When the eggs cost $40, that's where they'll find the bodies in the kitchen eating the tulips. Like history. So the fixed income as you know it now, you feel like is what it is. Social Security benefits in 2067 are projected to be $5,130 a month. Total speculation, I get it, right? Totally an estimate. But compare that to the rent being $14,000. See, when the person 2, 3, 4 years ago saw what was coming for the landscape, saw the ice age, and said, "Yo, let's come together. Let's get some space. Let's rent some space. Let's put the money together and do something together." It was laughable. But now imagine having to have that conversation at 68 because rent is $14,000 to $24,000, and now the community has to basically be a bunch of group homes, self-sustained. Increasing financial stress, choosing between essential needs and housing, diminishing quality of life. If the hearsay is some small percentage, or some, better said, some great percentage of the American people don't have more than $500 in their bank account today, what is it going to feel like? What will the ice age be when rent is $20,000 for your one bedroom, 600 square feet? They're going to tell you, oh, start saving early. They're going to sell you some bullshit. You've been buying it thus far. They're counting on you to remain ignorant. And that's why they don't want you sitting in front of Pasha Pablo on a Zoom meeting talking about galvanizing your attitude for success. And the word attitude means position. No, they don't want that. Right? They're going to sell you on contributing to retirement accounts that they can exploit behind the scenes and then make more billions. Add to your savings plan now, because as a greenbelt, I learned too much of anything is wasteful. So if you have too many of those fiat currency certificates, that just tells me you don't know what the fuck to do with them. And someone talked you into dropping them into affordable housing so that you can become the bad guy when you don't decrease the rent any further 5 years from now, when half of the people you put in there can't afford it. Again, complaining that there's no affordable housing. Versus coming together and actually growing businesses and brand values as Pasha has been campaigning for. almost a decade. Now gaining momentum, the votes are coming in. The red states and the blue states, like the Brown family, except for does the Brown family support itself? It'd be messed up to have the red, the blue, but not the brown. You can't feel like you the shit without the Browns. You gotta be on your Sador Sanders. That's where we all started from. You singing Drake songs. They laughed when they said, I told you, the civil rights was really a great manip to put the entire nation at what you used to feel better than. And you're less than 40 years of actually experiencing everything you thought you were segregated from. There's a vested interest for all sides, red, blue, yellow, black, to get this right. To get this togetherness. I used to call it our national GDP. When I was the ambassador of Alignable for South Charlotte, that was the mission statement. We're not going to fight over the same fiat currency, passed back and forth between us like a hockey puck on some old Nintendo game. Instead, we could come together, create supply chains amongst ourselves, and look for customers beyond. Well, you see Pasha's talking about the traffic on his site today. Fast forward to the future, 47% is Germany and France. Like Pasha says, let's go. I don't like to repeat myself. Because people make time for what they want. When you years ahead, they will make time to talk shit about you. You gave them the offer of togetherness. So if they're not with you, then they have chose to be an obstacle. Because the government is great at emotional manipulation. That's what got you here. Now, I'm not saying they're a bad thing because it's always user error. But how many people want to take ownership for what happens to them? So invest wisely, right? That's what they're going to tell you. Your 401ks. Explore passive income opportunities like stocks and real estate. Don't do nothing. Have you noticed that they keep telling you don't do nothing? So of course I sound foreign. I sound foreign to you, to them. We sound foreign to them when we show up talking about let's take action. I know artists that are still making music today that sound like it's from 1980, but it's clear, and they call it hip hop. And you wonder why I celebrate being a new age artist. We're compared not to Jay-Z, but to Zeitgeist. We're responsible for the future today. They're going to tell you to monitor the rental market trends and adjust financial strategies. And you're only 1 week of hyperinflation away from even the millionaires being broke. Advocate for policy change. They always want you to beg them. I don't want to see us. Maybe the whole Kaepernick thing was a ploy to get you to kneel. Now all you argue about, should we be allowed to kneel and bow your head in disgrace and disgust? I'm just from a different jurisdiction. I'm from America. And I know people that weren't born here that's more American than half the people I talk to with the United States birth certificate. I salute you all. Now, we got less than 5 years now until Agenda 2030. And for y'all that's been too busy worried about is LeBron retiring this year to know, the quote to summarize Agenda 2030 is, you will own nothing and be happy. And some of y'all worked your whole life to keep property in the family as an inheritance to the generations you're leaving behind, who you did not put in position to be able to maintain it financially. There is no vehicle that you're leaving behind to support the extra expenses of a property that they're not currently residing in, under the assumption and pretense that they will want it more than they want where they at now. So you worked 80 years to keep something in the family that as soon as you hit the ground, there's going to be a transfer of ownership. But they were trained not to do nothing and to fight for the right to kneel and bow. You don't see it though. You wonder why Pasha makes songs called Let There Be Light. Y'all still used to the 1995. All the shit y'all want to celebrate, we was doing in 1999, 26 years ago. Y'all just got there. The future of Social Security for today's 25-year-olds, the trajectory of the COLA, right? The cost of living is set with some vomit at 2.5%, right? Historically between 1% and 3% annual. Now, what does that look like over 42 years? 2.5% annual increase compounded over 42 years is a total increase of 185%. So your volunteer slavery talks the same ish to you at that annual meeting. they say we calculated based on the general area, the surrounding area. They use terms like that. And we found that the average cost of living increase is 2.4%. So we are going to be generous this year and give you 2.5% cost of living. And you wind up making an extra 18 cents an hour. Theatrical. Meanwhile, 42 years from now, you'll be at 185% at that rate of what you make right now. So the inflation, which they taught you is inflation, but it's actually the deflation. It's actually the erosion of the currency purchasing power, the currency value. They call it inflation because why? They got to make sure you back. Right? So the inflation is going to erode the purchasing power and the maintaining and status quo. It's going to maintain the status quo rather than improving. So when you look at that, as far as the future value of Social Security, $1,800 in today's fiat currency would be approximately $5,130. So if your benefit today is $1,800, that's how we're going to get to the number earlier, $5,130 per month in 2067. Buys you what $1,800 buys you today. Just like $100 in the early 2020s bought you what $2 bought you in the 1930s. But you feel great about working. You call everything you do work because they taught you to work. I want you to produce. I want you to create. And I want you to be free to do it. So higher inflation could occur. Same way we talked about earlier. What if inflation hits 3%? While the cost of living adjustments are only 2.5%. You guys are smart people here that watch YNet 7 with me on YouTube. Maybe you're catching on Facebook. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and definitely share, subscribe, etc. Right? So at the same time, Social Security itself could decline in value by 20% or more as they start to continue to pull the plugs on stuff. Right? Or tell you, it's 67, it's 68, it's 74. You know what? You gotta wait till you 79 to get it. What happens then? Because here's what I'm saying for those who haven't gotten it yet. I'm Pasha Pavo. I've been saying that for a long time. But here's what I mean. Even if you have a volunteer slavery right now, and I say, look at starting your own business today. What would you want to do? Let's work towards that together. I'll coach you, I'll help you, we'll brand you, we'll market, whatever you need. American, British, French, German, I'm your guy. Because if you're going to go through everything that you believe you have planned to do to become 68, to still at that point in time be riding around in an Uber trying to generate an extra 5 to 10,000 so that you can make rent before you go to the grocery store, then let's just start branding your personal brand and building it now so you'll be ahead of the game by 2067. At least you'll be already used to naming your own price. Unless you're in retail. Sucks to be retail. That's why I want to work with the creatives and the producers, because we actually make shit. We don't just talk shit. All right? Because the projected trust fund is expected to be gone, right, by 2034 unless significant reforms are made. Right? You're going to see reductions of 20 and 25% in payouts. You're going to, if you're a United States citizen, most likely you're going to hear something about increased taxes and or delayed benefit and or the retirement age will be skyrocketed as well. The only guarantee, because you see they can push a button and crash the stock market, you'll lose everything. You'll go down to 20% of what you had. We've seen this before. The only thing that's going to save the community is that the community is sustainable. That's why I've invested in this. That's why I've given my life to this research, to this knowledge. You can't get the intangible in totality that I have anywhere else. That's why behind the scenes, we need to work as hard as they work for you to not appreciate this type of information. We even talk about healthcare costs at $68.70 in 2067 when your rent's $25,000. What do you think one trip to the ER is going to cost? Catch a cold and not be using holistic products or making your own holistic remedy. Keep contributing to your 401k because they told you don't do nothing but fight the needle and pray to battle. Right? Diversify your income streams to them is invest in stocks, real estates, or other assets. But I keep telling you, property as in real estate is dead. I've been telling you for years. Once they started 3D printing homes, it was a wrap. Intellectual property is where it's at. That's why you have to be a producer or a creative to work with Pasha Potluck. You have to make something because that's your intellectual property. That's the gold now. Everything else is obsolete. Everything else, AI and automation gonna be able to complete. But whatever it is that you do creatively, whatever it is that you make, I want to talk to you about it. Especially if you have a couple dollars of that fiat double signed paper to put behind it, we can develop a plan now. www.pashapower.com pashaparo.online. I want to learn more about you. Let me know what you think in the comments below about the Social Security situation. Are you even considering it an option by the time you get there? Maybe last week you didn't care because you were, on LinkedIn posting about having $600,000 in the bank account in the past, until you realize that $600,000, now that you watch this video, a few decades from now, if you make it that far, it's only going to get you a little over 3 years at your current location. Now you gotta redistribute, your ego. Because you was laughing at people that were saying, that ain't shit. But now you realize that ain't shit. And it never was shit. But look at what it had you doing to the people around you, thinking it was shit. You got people that think they're too good to talk to you for 30 minutes. You got people that want to talk to you now that when you needed help, you didn't hear from them. So what's going to happen when the community all together faces rent at $25,000 a month? And you already see that they're battling again for 2030. Oh, you own nothing and be happy. We already saw the plays from the hedge funds buying up all the properties, the single family homes, to turn the United States into a renter nation. No shit, because the fucking rents are gonna be 25, and if they're 25,000 on the average 1,000 square foot stacked 20-story high apartment high rise, that single family home that you renting for $27.95 right now is gonna be $60,000 a month. Family members that have been told they can never move back home is going to get invites on gold fringed paper stationery saying, please return home. The family misses you. These were the same people that left you on the street. When they thought they were better than you. So I want to work with you in particular to get your business where it needs to be. Because I can relate to that shit. I can relate to telling people years before it impact, only to be thrown in the mental hospital for mental observation for 10 days or 4 days. For the experts to tell them there's nothing wrong with Pasha. He knows things that the average people don't know. And he's got to be careful who he's talking to about it. And after the medication wore off, from being forced to comply, I said I refused to go to jail my whole life. I was in 4 police chases to avoid such high speed. And when you don't get caught after that, the last thing you expect is to wind up in captivity because you're surrounded by ignorance. And I refuse for the rest of the world to find out how dumb we really are. So you guys are either with us or you in the motherfucking way. You can feel like you living comfortably, thinking you gonna hop on some ships and travel. You can think you're gonna be on a cruise line. You can think there are pirates today. Or you can act like you too know what it's like to struggle to make ends meet. And maybe you'll be allergic to the inaction. Maybe the next time we speak, it won't be, oh, I'm Pasha, I'm good. I'm making enough to pay my rent. I got my car payment. I'm good. No, no, you're not. Because see, each in big business, I learned this from doing time at Discover Financial. See, you ain't got to go to jail to do time. Because you had to put your application in to go to jail. You applied for that shit. You applied. Some people, the application process was longer than others. Some people submit their shit, they go right to jail. Monopoly. Some people, their application took them 5, 10, 15, 20 years to be approved. Okay? And that taught them something. So all of you guys in a volunteer slavery right now, I want you to feel like you're doing time. And I want you to come out of there saying, but it taught me something. Fuck your paycheck. What did it teach you? You saw the other videos on YNet 7. You got a choice. You can go to some manufacturer certificate of origin institution that's going to put a stamp on your back to give you increased value called a degree. And you can pay decades of revenue to wear the logo of who told you their IP, their intellectual property. They're licensing you the ability to say you know something. Or you can go into corporate America, go behind the enemy lines for a minute and study on recon as they pay 10 million, millions, tens of millions of dollars, billions of dollars for information. And you can go in there and learn all that shit and be paid to learn and bring it back home to the community. Then we need to train the community to embrace you for being the bearer of the light. Why do you think Pasha makes songs called Let There Be Light? And y'all still talking about 1985 shit. I gotta wait. We gotta wait. We are waiting for critical mass. You don't understand. Let me explain. The only thing change needs is critical mass. When they dropped the atom bomb, nothing happened until enough of the critical mass came together to start the chain reaction. And y'all up here celebrating quotes. United we stand, divided we fall. And then you go and do every fucking thing they gave to divide us. And then that's hip hop. Hip hop tells you that they know everything and then do everything as if they didn't know anything. Come to the new age. Come to the new age. So if you're an artist, I got projects for you. You got a budget? Let's work. If you're a business owner, I got a future for you. You got a budget? Let's build it. It don't matter who you are. They try to convert you. They tell you what you should be. What were you born to be? Let's find that out. Let's invest in that so that you can fucking enjoy yourself as you contribute to the sustainable community. So, all of you looking for a real home, consider this shit invite. I'm Pasha Pablo.